Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, what drives you crazy? There is a long list for most Americans. We're going to be talking to the host of the Angry Alan Show next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I remember in the late 90s at Fox 4, I did a very popular reoccurring segment called Drives Me Crazy. And it was all about things that just, made you lose your mind. Waiting too long at a Starbucks, or the cop that pulls you over for going just 3 miles over the speed limit. And we would ask viewers to submit what drives you crazy, and then we'd follow up. It was a wildly popular segment, and so my next guest is going to explore all of that in a brand new podcast launching soon on this network. Alan Topchik is in the studio. He's the host of the Angry Alan Show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I first have to know, where did Angry Alan come from?
Human nature. It's my brand.
So had friends jokingly called you Angry Alan?
Yes, and I like to advocate for people and solve problems, and more important, I can't live in that level of frustration that I see, so I try to right those wrongs, so to speak.
Well, you remind me of a modern-day Andy Rooney. Do you remember Andy Rooney?
Yeah, and there was a guy in New York, Help Me Howard.
Yes, I remember.
Right?
Yeah.
So I actually know him fairly well.
That's
but
awesome.
It gave me the permission to speak candidly and to try to help people get through this worldly nonsense.
Sure. And you're a pretty no-nonsense guy. I know you were telling me some stories before the show about how you'll get on the phone with a customer service representative, or actually go down to a bank that isn't doing you right. Does that come from mom or dad? Have you? Who was the person who was a little bit more feisty?
Well, interesting. Probably my grandmother.
Okay.
But if you don't ask, you don't get an answer. If you don't fight for what's right, it's unlikely that it'll happen on its own. So I think that having a big mouth in a courteous way, and I'm not always courteous, but having a big mouth, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Amen.
You would think the honey is what attracts people, but I think the squeaky person who's doing justice is just as valuable.
You and my wife would get along so well, because I'm the person who would just stay quiet and get bad service, and she's the one who gets on the phone or says, I need to see your manager. We've got some video from our library of people getting angry, and I would suggest to you, we talked about this, Alan, that I think we're living in an angrier society than it was when we were growing up. You and I are in the same age range. And even the television stuff that we're watching these days, reality television shows seem to be just people yelling at each other for an hour. I mean, I think we're being socialized to get angry. You look at all the social media feeds, people get more likes on stuff that makes them angry.
Well, that's common sense, because they're not getting angry doesn't solve anything unless you address the root cause. And I think that the angriness of society is being perpetuated, promulgated by things that are larger than us, like political rhetoric, things like that. And that's scary, because if people can't de-escalate, they don't really solve the problems. And solving a problem doesn't mean you destroy something that exists.
Yes.
That doesn't solve anything necessarily. So if you if you have an idea on how to fix it or rebuild it, that to me seems like a better approach than destruction.
Yes.
Right?
Okay, well, let's go down the list of some of the things that drive you crazy. The tipping culture. You go to any place where they're scooping a scoop of ice cream and then they stand there waiting for you to tip them. And in my mind, it's like, isn't that your job? Your job is to scoop the ice cream and hand it to me. Does that deserve a tip?
Interesting. Tipping has become a global topic. Some countries don't believe in tipping. I mean, I might tip an ice cream kid because they're young kids and they need to make some money, but I don't ever tip in Starbucks. I waste a lot of money in Starbucks. I squander that money, and I have to walk up to the counter and I got to chase my stuff down, and I don't think they're doing anything that earns a tip. I don't think haircutters deserve a tip. They usually split that with the house like a commissioned agent. I wouldn't tip my lawyer. I don't tip my doctor. So it's a complicated thing, but when I was raised, if you went to a restaurant, you tipped. You gave a really great tip if it was a great experience, great service, and you gave an okay tip if it was everything else. And once in a blue moon, you might leave a small tip or no tip because it was so horrible an experience. You just wanted to forget about it.
And when I was growing up, it was always, wasn't it 15%? And now when they hold that iPad in front of you, you don't have an option to give them a 15% tip. It starts at 20.
Pretty soon the beggars on this highway are going to ask for tips.
With an iPad.
Right. That was your donation, but I need the tip.
That's right. All right, let's talk about trying to get somebody on the phone. So when I call my airline, I instantly say agent, agent as many times as I can until I get a human on the phone. But some of these companies that you're calling, they don't have real people anymore.
Well, customer service doesn't exist anymore, period. I mean, that's just the modern culture. However, my youngest, who's 15, always says, Dad, could you get the CEO of such and such company on the phone? And I would say to him, Ethan, I don't know, but there's a good chance I will. And he says, well, why? How could you do that and other people can't? Because I'm disciplined and I am a bulldog. I want that guy on the phone because I want him to know how crummy his company is behaving. I may even talk to the general counsel if I can't get the CEO.
Wow.
But I've done that plenty. And I think the key is perseverance, persistence, and discipline.
Let's talk about outrageous bills. We were talking before the show about hospital bills. A little known secret is if you have a medical emergency and you call an ambulance, sometimes that short ambulance ride can cost you $7,000. So, and you don't know that. I mean, the only thing you're doing is getting into, a life-saving situation, but they don't give you a menu as you get.
No, and it's interesting because life doesn't come with a menu. It just comes with a bunch of curveballs, and you got to figure it out. But it's even more obvious than the hospital situation because many things are not disclosed. And many money issues are manipulated to sound one way when they're really the exact opposite.
Sure.
And again, that's the corporate world finding ways and intermediaries to provide seemingly great services at your expense. And you may want them, you may not want them, but in the old days, if somebody got hurt on the farm, you drive them out to the doctor or you drive them to the nearest hospital. You didn't have time to wait for an ambulance. So there's all kinds of craziness with these expenses, and whether it's an ambulance service, a medical bill, or just fighting over a charge from a bank that you think is obscene.
Let's talk about shady service, because I remember this is several years ago, but I saw this 1995 oil change. I said, okay, well, that's cheap. It cost me $175 because suddenly they found everything that I needed to replace in the engine. Right. And to me,
and your windshield wipers.
Yeah, and that's a bait and switch, isn't it?
Kind of. But because people are insecure and saying, yeah, we'll change your oil for $19.95, these other services, they're not smart about it, how they approach it. However, if we upsell you on this, you'll save 15%, maybe you would do it willingly.
Right.
Instead of doing it and having an argument about, hey, what did you just do? There was no need for that.
Yeah, and air conditioning repair people, there are some, will not name their names, but they come out with a salesperson, not a technician, and the first thing they want to do is tell you your unit went bad.
Yeah, and my lady friends had similar circumstances renovating a new farmhouse. And, some contractors or handyman or what will represent they can do something because they like the sound of the customer saying, oh, how much? And okay, good, you do it. And then they don't really know how to do it. And in my lady friend's case, she had to do a couple of jobs over again, double the cost, or maybe not quite double the cost, but.
Well, and I know that towards the end of every episode, you're going to invite the viewer to send in requests. Why don't you tackle this one, Alan? And who knows where this goes? I think you could be the next Joe Rogan. We have a very angry society, and there's a lot of people who would relate to what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think that my goal is to get people talking about what really frustrates them, so they don't fester in it. That's number one. Number two, I think there's common themes in almost every one of these complaints or frustrations or things that you're angry about, because I speak to friends every day and business people every day, and we're all talking circles because of the same kinds of issues. And how do we take ourselves as a society off that merry-go-round? So
I think you need to get an anger management therapist to sponsor your show.
Yes. Yeah, and it's kind of therapeutic, and it's kind of just venting.
Yes.
But I'm no Dr. Phil, I could tell you that.
And I'm glad that you're not. You're just Angry Alan.
That's right.
That's it for now. We're going to end with the LinkedIn page. He's going to put up a website for his Angry Alan show. But for now, if you want to get in touch with Alan Topchik, there it is. Thank you so much, Angry Alan, for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.